So from there, we move on to something less cyberpunk. We move on to I Want to Love You Till Your Dying Day. Episode 1. It was a dark and stormy night. A knife-wielding man. I shouldn't say knife. Like, now that I know what it is, it's a wand.
Yeah.
But it looked like a knife to begin with, and just how bloody they are, I'm like, that looks like a stabbing to me. But no, it's not a knife. I should say it's a wand-wielding man, which wand looks like a knife, injured, stands over a wounded girl, hard bleeding out, and he casts some sort of lightning spell, and it pans away, and I think it's assumed that that girl is probably dead, and we see what looks like a battle of magic all over. But then from there, it cuts to another girl in a nice room, brushing her hair, food on the table, a morning like any other. But then it cuts to the classroom, and the teacher says that last night during the raid near West District 3rd Point, one of their classmates died. And the teacher is like, you guys got to get good. And the girl thinks that the teacher says the same thing when a classmate dies. And then they begin class. The girl continues to narrate and says that this place is an orphanage and trains them in war, also known as the National Warfare Sorcery Weapon Training Institute. And it has girls and boys from ages 10 to 17 and groups them by age and trains them on this mysterious power that everybody has for some reason. So apparently everyone can fucking cast magic, I guess. Cuts back to class, and the girl is zoning out, and the teacher calls her out as number 8, Totsuki Sheena. And she's like, get your wand out. And Sheena tries to conjure it, but it fizzles. And the kids laugh, and the teacher is like, you were roommates with the girl that died, right? And she's like, yeah. And the teacher says she is excused and to clean out all of the dead girl's stuff from their dorm. And the kids are like, man, she's so lucky she gets to skip class because her roommate died. I want a dead roommate. But then another girl, Seiran, is like, you guys are jerks. But then the girl sitting next to her, Adi, is like, hey, we're in class. Quit it. And then their hands make out under the desk. But then it cuts to Sheena in her room, struggling to use magic to tie up some books, and she has all the dead girl's stuff that needs to go back to the school, and the last thing that is left is the girl's stuffed animal, and Sheena gets sad, but is like, I got this. Sheena afterwards goes to the cafeteria and gets some old-ass rice out of the rice cooker, and walks through the school and finds a nice place to eat it. And she's like, man, is this it? Girls just die and then I clean up her stuff, no big deal? And she has a flashback of her dead roommate saying Sheena is lucky that she is so weak, so she doesn't have to worry about going to war. But then a bloodied other girl just teleports right in front of her nothing personnel kid and is like, hey, can I have one of those? And Sheena's like, have one of what? And she's like, what's in your hand? And Sheena lifts her cup of gamer sups that she used promo code TJ Montague at checkout for 10% off of her order on limited edition flavors like bloodied girl teleports behind you nothing personnel kid, and you too can visit gamersups.gg and use promo code DJ Montague at checkout for 10% off of your order, and part of your proceeds goes to the National Warfare Sorcery Weapon Training Institute to support the kids.
No, it goes to me. Some of your proceeds go to me. Okay?
Who is a member of the National Warfare Sorcery Weapon Training Institute for kids.
Wish I had a magic wand.
But no, Sheena didn't have a cup of gamer sups. She had her old ass rice onigiri. And the girl is like, hey, can I have one of those? And Sheena's like, sure. And then she sits down and starts a munchin'. The bloody girl is like, that shit good. Give me the other one. And Sheena's like, okay. And then gives it to her. And the bloodied girl is like, why you got a Band-Aid on your face? Let me see that shit. And she rips it off of Sheena's face. And it's just a tiny little cut. But then A teacher slash nurse is walking past and hears the girls. Sheena is like, oh yeah, that cut, it's like 3 days old. It doesn't hurt anymore. And the bloodied girl is like, oh, after 3 days, things don't hurt anymore? Sick. And Sheena is like, are you hurt? You got blood all over you. And she's like, nah, I'm good. And Sheena is like, damn, that's someone else's blood. And then bloody girl just gets a good whiff of Sheena.
What a weird show.
I feel like this is going to be a show about Sheena, who is hyper aware of death, Mimi, who is hyper unaware of death. And when she made that comment like, oh, it only takes 3 days for it not to hurt anymore. Damn, that's crazy. So I imagine something's going to happen in the future where someone gets like a mortal wound and Mimi's going to be like, don't worry, Sheena said 3 days and you're going to be all good. And then they just die. I think there's going to be that sort of conflict where Mimi doesn't understand the one side, Sheena doesn't understand the other side. And then they're going to somehow teach each other life. I don't know, man. Beats the fuck out of me.
Yeah, I'm already uncomfortable with it. So.
But the teacher slash nurse rolls up and it's Miss Fran. And she's like, hey, you were supposed to go straight to the nurse's office. And then she, one hand, picks up Mimi. And Fran asks Sheena if Bloody Girl, which is Mimi now, they haven't told us her name, but it's Mimi, if she told her anything. And Sheena's like, no, not really. And she's like, sick. See you later. Peace sign, kissy face. And then she leaves. Cuts to the nurse with Mimi. And she's like, man, I told you not to talk to the students. But Mimi is like, she just smelled so fucking good. Smelled just like mama.
Yeah, okay.
But it cuts back to Sheena and she went straight back to her room, but she could still smell the blood. It's the next morning and Sheena didn't sleep at all. And she's like, how many people do you have to kill to get that soaked in blood? But then class starts and they introduce a new student and it's Blood Girl and her name is Mimi. And everyone is like, oh shit, is it that Mimi? And Mimi is like, oh shit, look, it's Onigiri Girl. And she points at Sheena and the teacher says that Mimi will be student number 7 and will room with Sheena. Cuts to a different part of the school and they're standing in line for the auditorium and Mimi asks a bunch of questions about the room and stuff and she asks what the stuffed animal is and Sheena says it was her old roommate's and she wants to put it in her casket. They get to the auditorium and there's caskets for the dead, but there aren't any bodies because the bodies are like fucking confiscated or something, or they just self-destruct when the kids die to prevent the enemies from getting information, is what they said. I didn't really understand it, to be honest. I don't know if there was like a unit that goes to pick up dead kids or if they actually do just self-destruct.
I would imagine that there's certain like parts of the magic that these kids just like cease to exist anymore after they've been killed. Like it's not even about getting dead bodies.
And I'm hoping that this girl doesn't come back, like actually come back. I feel like we'll see her some more in like Sheena flashbacks and maybe like traumatized memory
Mimi?
style stuff. No, the girl that died.
Oh yeah. I think we're good.
I hope so.
I think that this is less like, what was that movie with Tom Cruise?
Mission
The Day
Impossible.
After Tomorrow? No.
Edge of Tomorrow.
The Edge of Tomorrow. Okay,
Yeah.
At least I was close. Where like they go back in time or, I mean, it might be, but I guess, I don't know. Like I'm uncomfortable with the push of the love story so far.
I don't mind it too much, just with having the perspective of the world that they're in. So there are a couple other animes that kind of do this. I think 86 does it a little bit. There's another one called Blue Gender, and they kind of push that idea of like relationships onto the characters, even though they're so young, because they live in a world where they could just be dead tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like fast forwarding the whole love relationship building thing because these girls can be sent off to war tomorrow and then just not come back
And just explode.
and that's it. Yeah. In that context, I don't mind it too much because I understand like where it's coming from. But if this was just like a shonen and then the girls are just like making out and there's like no fear of dying and it's just really weird, then I would be more uncomfortable. but I am giving it to the show that is kind of the world that they're living in. And I understand it in the sense of the story is trying to tell us. Now, that might change as the episodes go on, but I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Well, it's also labeled as Yuri.
It's living up to the hype.
Living up to the hype. Yeah. I want them to be able to tell, like, this is going to sound hilarious. I want them to be able to tell a gay story and it not be weird. I want LGBTQ plus people to also have that storyline be able to be told to them and them have something to identify with. I don't want it to be like a sexualization of fucking children for people to watch.
And right now, that's what I mean. I'm kind of giving it the benefit of the doubt. This next scene, I'm kind of like, okay, that's questionable.
Yep.
The hand-holding thing, I think, was fine. I thought the Summer Hikaru died was good. I thought that they had their message, but then stayed on track with like what the story was. And I didn't mind those elements at all inside of that story. I mean, it did get weird with the whole reach inside me and feel my raw chicken, but
also there was an element to that. Like if they had said that like healing magic wasn't through like kissing, and like that feels a little bit more intimate than reach inside me and touch my raw chicken. To me, was the kissing one with the healing magic. You're giving, minimizing kissing, but like using it as an excuse to like have kids do it all the time.
I don't. Well, let's.
You know what I mean?
Let's get to it. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
So Sheena tosses in the stuffed animal, and then Mimi picks up a flower off the ground and tosses it into the casket as well. And I think in this scene we see that like Sheena is doing something like sentimental, but I don't think Mimi really has a concept of like what this act actually means, and she's just kind of doing it because everyone else is doing it. And then I think we do see another part of that at the end of the episode. So it cuts to the cafeteria and everyone is looking at Mimi, but Mimi is being all cute. But then Adi and Seidon roll up and sit with them, and they're like, hey, are you that Mimi? And Sheena is like, what that? And they say Mimi is a secret weapon that gets special training from the teachers. And it's rumored Mimi killed a bunch of enemies yesterday. But then there's an announcement, and students are summoned for deployment to war. Numbers 1407, 1606, 1612, 1701, 1704, 1705, 1708, 1709, 1710, 1713, 1715, 1716, and 1720. And Mimi is like, that's my number, and then grabs some bread and runs off.
So my thing with this is I'm assuming that the first two numbers indicate the age of the kid, or at least the room number they're in.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. But Sheena's number wasn't called, and she's in class, and Fran shows up and is like, hey, help me move Mimi's shit to your room. And then she sniffs up all on Sheena. She yiffs Sheena. And she's like, oh, okay.
That does not mean that, Greg. That doesn't mean that at all.
Take care of Mimi. Sheena
Greg,
walks back with some...
Don't misconstrue those two things.
She walks back
again
with Mimi's shit, and two girls are just hard making out on the stairwell.
Oh my God.
Yiffing, if you will. And then Mimi pops up.
No. Closer, like, but also...
and is like, oh, they're kissing. And Sheena is like, no, that's not yiffing. That's restoration magic. And she's pouring her magic right into their other girl's mouth, and that heals them. But only if they're on the same wavelength. And Mimi is like, oh, the nurse does that all the time. But it cuts to Mimi and Sheena in their room now. Mimi is number 1407. Sheena is 1408. And Mimi is like, oh, Sheena, can't sleep? And Sheena's like, nah, my tum-tum hurts. And then Mimi is like, restoration kiss. But Sheena is like, man, that shit tastes like blood. And then that's how episode 1 ends. So this was the other thing, right? Mimi is kind of like portrayed right now as just like a killing machine. And then she's just kind of mimicking Mimi mimicking the things that she sees. So she sees Sheena put something in the casket. She also puts something in the casket. She sees two girls kissing. She kisses Sheena because that's supposed to heal her. So yeah, I think that's going to kind of be the theme of the story here. And like, yeah, kind of like what you said, Mimi is probably going to find humanity via Sheena somehow. And Sheena's supposedly the shittiest fucking child soldier mage in existence. But then she probably has like the secret power of like Holy Four and is just going to like crater the fucking earth someday.
I think Sheena's just going to die.
I mean, that's also a possibility.
My theory is that she's not this omnipotent. At least if I was going to write a story like this, I feel like it's really hard to ground your characters. It's like JJK when, like, who does Gojo fall in love with? You know what I mean?
Himself.
How theories are that Gojo and Geto were in love. But the idea of this omnipotent character that doesn't really identify with normal human experience, how do you ground them? I mean, usually the hardest way to ground a character like that is through the loss of something they really enjoy, whether they view it as a love of their life, a partner, or just a toy in general. We get the Dracula syndrome. You know, he meets his love of his life, he has a kid, and then decides to go on a fucking rampage. And he's like, you've taken everything from me. Yeah, that's kind of where I think that this is going.